In the remote village of Kambulu, surrounded by thick forests and rivers that whispered secrets at night, lived a quiet man named Tando. No one knew much about him, except that he never spoke after sunset, and his hut was always sealed by strange markings drawn in white ash. For years, villagers whispered that something unnatural lived with him. Some claimed to see a long, dark shape sliding under his door at midnight, while others swore they heard soft hissing mixed with his breathing. But Tando ignored their fear. Each night, when the moon reached its peak, he would light a single oil lamp, sit on his reed mat, and wait. From the shadowed corner of his hut, a large black snake would slither out, its scales shimmering like wet obsidian, its eyes reflecting the fire like molten gold. Without fear, Tando would let it curl around his body, its cold weight resting against his skin. Then he would whisper words in a forgotten tongue, and the snake would rest its head on his chest, listening as though it understood. This strange ritual had gone on for 7 years. Every morning he would wake up unharmed, refreshed even, and go about his day as though nothing happened. But one night, an elder named Kofi saw him through a crack in the wall and ran to tell the others. "He sleeps with a serpent every midnight," he cried. The village gathered the next morning, furious and terrified. In Kambulu, snakes were sacred messengers of the spirit world, but to live with one meant you had crossed into the forbidden. When they confronted Tando, he simply said, "She is not a snake. She is my guardian." The people were horrified. The chief ordered him to end the ritual, warning no mortal should share his bed with a creature of the ancestors. But Tando only smiled faintly. "It is too late," he said. "Without her, I will die." That night, the snake came again, its scales whispering against the dirt floor. But this time, when it laid its head beside his, golden eyes glowed brighter than ever before, and Tando felt something stir inside his chest, something alive and ancient. After the villagers confronted Tando, they thought he would give up his madness. But that night, his hut still glowed with the faint orange light of the lamp, and the hissing began again. Children cried in their sleep. Dogs howled until dawn. The next morning, the village square was covered with hundreds of snake tracks circling every house. No one saw where they came from, but all pointed toward Tando's hut. The elders gathered, terrified. "The spirits are restless," said old Kofi, trembling. "He has opened a path between our world and theirs." When they tried to confront Tando again, he refused to open his door. "Inside," he whispered softly, "she says they are angry because the balance is broken." Days passed, and strange things began happening. Cows stopped giving milk, the river water turned cloudy, and birds fell dead from the trees. The chief sent a witch doctor named Mama Naira to cleanse the land. She came at dusk, her staff crowned with bones and feathers, her eyes painted white. "The curse sleeps here," she muttered, standing outside Tando's hut. She threw sacred herbs into the fire and chanted. For a moment, the air went still. Then the ground trembled, and from beneath the hut came a deep, rumbling sound. Mama Niara screamed, "It's not just a snake, it's a spirit bride." The villagers scattered as the door burst open. The black serpent slithered out, larger than ever, its eyes glowing like twin suns. Behind it stood Tando, his face pale, veins dark like ink running through his skin. "She is not evil," he shouted. "You call her curse, but she saved me from death." The snake coiled protectively around him, hissing a sound that felt almost human. Mama Nyera raised her staff, chanting louder, but the snake struck the ground, sending a wave of wind that threw her backward. Lightning cracked across the sky, though there were no clouds. When it was over, Tando fell unconscious, and the snake vanished into the forest. The people were left in silence, too afraid to speak. Mama Nyera, still trembling, whispered to the chief that was no ordinary spirit. He belongs to her now. Each midnight she will claim a piece of his soul until only her shadow remains. That night no one slept in Kambulu. In every hut candles were lit, prayers were said. But deep inside the forest, a pair of golden eyes gleamed beneath the roots of the baobab tree, waiting for midnight to strike again. For 3 days, Tando did not open his door. The villagers thought he had fled, but every midnight, a faint humming sound rose from his hut, deep, melodic, and unnatural. On the 4th night, young Nala, the chief's son, dared to peek through the cracks. What he saw made his blood freeze. Tando sat cross-legged before the dying fire, his eyes glowing dimly like amber coals, his skin marked with dark scales creeping up his arms. The snake lay across his shoulders, whispering into his ear as if teaching him secrets from the underworld. Nala ran back in terror and told the elders he is no longer a man. But when they went to the hut in daylight, Tando seemed normal, quiet, weak, and human. "The spirits feed on fear," he murmured. "If you keep watching, they'll come for you next." That night, as the moon reached its highest point, thunder roared again, though no rain fell. Inside his hut, Tando could feel his veins burning with something ancient. The snake lifted its head and spoke, not with sound, but directly into his mind. "You were chosen, my mate. When your mortal heart stops, you shall live as I do forever between shadow and soil." Tando's breath shuddered. "Why me?" he whispered. The serpent's eyes flickered with sorrow. "Because you touched the forbidden spring. You drank what was meant for gods." And suddenly he remembered years ago, when his wife had died of fever, he had gone into the forest searching for water to heal her. In his grief, he had drunk from a pool beneath the sacred tree, ignoring the warnings carved into stone. "Do not drink where silence breathes." The snake had appeared that night, offering him comfort, and he thought it was mercy. Now he understood it was a bond, a pact written in his blood. As the truth sank in, his body convulsed. The snake slithered closer, wrapping tighter, its fangs brushing his skin but not biting. Instead, it sank into his chest, vanishing beneath his flesh like smoke absorbed by air. Tando screamed as scales rippled across his body, his eyes turning gold, his tongue splitting in two. By dawn, when the villagers came again, the hut was empty. Only his footprints led into the forest, and beside them, a long trail like that of a serpent. Deep within the trees, 2 shapes moved as one, a man and a snake, bound forever by the curse he had awakened. By the time the sun rose on the 7th day, Kambulu was no longer the same. The wells had turned dry, the sky hung heavy with smoke, and every dawn brought new snake tracks winding through the village like writing from the underworld. Fear turned to anger. The chief called a meeting in the square, his voice trembling but loud. "This ends tonight. We will find him, burn the forest if we must, but this evil ends with Tando." The warriors gathered with torches and spears carved with ancestral symbols, their faces painted with ash. Mama Niera warned them, "Fire will not harm what is part of the earth. You fight something born from your sins." But no one listened. As night fell, the men entered the whispering forest, the air thick with mist and the cries of unseen creatures. The deeper they went, the quieter it became, until even the wind stopped. Then, out of the silence, came a voice, not loud, but close. "Why do you hunt what you created?" It was Tando's voice, but hollow, echoing from every direction. The men turned their torches, and from the shadows he stepped forward. His body shimmered in the dim light, half human, half serpent, his skin scaled and golden. "You drank from the forbidden spring," he said. "You poisoned the land with greed, and now call it curse." The warriors raised their spears, but the ground beneath them trembled. Roots burst from the soil, wrapping around their legs. The forest itself had awakened. Trees bent and cracked, snakes slithered from hollow trunks, their eyes gleaming like stars. One man screamed as vines pulled him into the darkness. "Tando," shouted the chief, his torch shaking. "Release us." But Tando's eyes glowed brighter. "I cannot. The forest remembers. The earth reclaims what was taken." Then came the hiss, long, deep, and endless. From behind him, the great serpent appeared, now twice the size it once was, its scales glowing with the pulse of the earth. It moved beside him like a shadow of the gods. Lightning split the sky, illuminating Tando's face, sorrowful yet resolute. "Leave this place," he whispered, "and tell them the spirits are watching." The men ran, dropping their weapons, their torches snuffed out by sudden rain. By dawn, only the chief returned, his hair white, his voice gone. The rest were never found. That day, no one dared enter the forest again. The line between man and spirit had been crossed. And Cambaloo learned that the curse was not Tando's alone, it belonged to them all. After the storm, silence ruled Cambaloo. Days passed, and the forest seemed alive with whispers. At dusk, the villagers saw faint golden lights flickering through the trees, moving like fireflies, but pulsing with rhythm like a heartbeat. The chief, now weak and haunted, told them, "He is no longer Tando. He has become the guardian of what we feared." But the younger ones, driven by curiosity, sneaked into the forest one night. They found a clearing that hadn't been there before. At its center stood the giant black serpent, coiled around a stone altar, its eyes glowing gently. Resting against it was a figure tall, graceful, with scales on his arms and a faint golden glow from within. It was Tando, or what remained of him. His hair flowed like dark smoke, and when he breathed, the trees bent slightly toward him. The children froze as his eyes opened. "You are not supposed to be here," he said softly. But his voice wasn't cruel. It was tired, ancient, and kind. The serpent lifted its head and spoke in a low hum that vibrated through the ground. "They are pure. Let them witness." Tando stood, placing a hand on the snake's head. "The bond is complete," he said. "The world of man and the world of spirit are now joined. The curse has become balance." As he spoke, the forest changed. Flowers bloomed in the dark, rivers began to flow again, and the sky above shimmered with strange constellations. The children ran back to tell the village, their eyes wide with wonder. But when the elders came the next day, the clearing was gone. only the scent of rain and snakeskin remained. Mama Naira said quietly, "The spirit has taken its throne." From that day, no one called Tando cursed. They built a small shrine at the forest's edge and named it Ekwa Njoka, the man who became the serpent. It became a sacred place where hunters prayed for protection and mothers asked for healing. Sometimes, when the moon was red, people swore they saw a tall figure standing beneath the trees, golden eyes gleaming, the great serpent coiled beside him. The air would hum with quiet power, and the winds would carry a whisper, "Respect what you cannot understand." And so, the legend of Tando, the Spirit King, lived on, a warning and a promise, echoing through every hiss of the forest, every drop of rain that touched the soil of Kambulu. Many generations passed, and the story of Tando became a tale told around fires, a warning to never disturb the spirits, and a reminder that love, even cursed, could bind worlds together. The shrine of Ekwa Njoka stood hidden beneath vines and moss, visited only by those who still believed. But time changed the hearts of men. A new chief rose, proud, educated in distant lands, and he mocked the old ways. "There are no spirits," he said, "only myths that keep us in fear." One dry season, when drought gripped Kambulu again, he ordered his men to cut down the sacred trees near the old forest. "We will build a new village there," he declared. The elders begged him not to, warning that the forest still breathed. But their words meant nothing to a man who worshipped progress. The first tree fell at dusk, and the air changed instantly, heavy, cold, alive. Birds vanished from the sky, and snakes began slithering out of the soil, hundreds of them, coiling silently around the stumps. That night, thunder rolled without lightning, and from the heart of the forest came a soft, familiar hum, the same sound Tando once sang. The villagers gathered in terror as mist crept into their homes. Out of it came a tall, shadowed figure, his eyes glowing gold through the fog. He walked slowly toward the new chief, who trembled but tried to stand his ground. "Who are you?" he whispered. The figure smiled faintly. "I am what you forgot." The ground trembled, roots bursting through the earth, wrapping around the fallen trees and lifting them upright again. The snakes slithered back into the roots, vanishing like smoke. "The balance cannot be broken," the voice said, echoing like thunder underwater. The mist cleared, and only the shrine remained, shining faintly in the moonlight. The new chief fell to his knees, weeping. "Forgive us," he whispered. But the wind replied softly, "Respect keeps forgiveness alive." By dawn, the forest was whole again. From that day, no one dared enter it, and no one cut its trees. But every year, on the night of the blood moon, people from nearby villages came to the forest edge, leaving offerings of feathers, honey, and carved stones. They said a tall man could sometimes be seen in the shadows, a serpent coiled around him, both watching in silence. Some called him protector, others called him curse, but all knew one thing: Tando, the man who slept with a snake, still guarded the land. The spirit of the serpent lived on, not in vengeance, but in balance, a silent promise between worlds that would never die.